is, I was thinking how many lessons that I have learned from being a parent and from my kids that really apply in life, and here's one of them. So I told some of you the following story. My daughter this year is in first grade and she started doing homework. And she's been like waiting for homework for years. Like since she was 2 years old, she wanted homework. So this is a big year, right? First day of school, brings home homework, and we proceeded to fight for 2 hours over doing the homework. She didn't want to do it, she didn't want to sit, she wanted to play. Okay, first day didn't go so well. I decided the next day we'd have a snack first, we'd chill out a little bit, we'd hang out, we'd talk about the day, and then we'd do homework. Again, 2 hours of fighting. So this has been, we're like now in the first, first month of school has gone by. She's gotten a little bit into the routine, but the other night she was doing homework, and part of her homework, for her Hebrew homework, which is something we should probably all be reviewing, is she gets a big sheet of paper. It's got the alphabet on it in different, out of order, because they have to take a quiz like on the letters, and they can't, it's not in order obviously, because that would be easy, because they've all memorized the whole song of the alphabet. So their teacher gives them a list of, a page of letters, all out of order, and they have to just say each one and the sound that it makes. And we do this every night, we practice every letter over and over, and it's really very monotonous, but great for her because she's passed the quiz, okay? So before we got to the quiz, we're practicing our letters, and the teacher, the Rebbe, at the bottom of the page says, you can either circle one of the following options. My child read this sheet according to the best of his or her ability, and circle the mistakes that she made, or my child read this sheet with no mistakes. So most nights, thank God, right? Penina was blessed with a very smart brain, so most nights we circle my child read this sheet with no mistakes. But every so often when she's rushing, or there are certain letters which, she's having trouble, I told most of you, with kaf and kaf, right? For some reason she can't remember which one has the dot, which one doesn't have the dot. So one night, whatever it was, she's reading the sheet and she made one mistake. So I, gave her a kiss after. I said, that was great, you did such a great job, you got almost everything right. And I circled whichever letter she mistook, and I circled at the bottom, my child read the sheet according to the best of his or her ability, which led to instant meltdown. She freaked out. She was screaming and crying, and she was so mad at me. Mommy, I'll read the whole sheet again. And I said, honey, it's okay to make a mistake. It's fine. You make a mistake. And it's good for your Rebbe to see what you need to work on and what what you're perfect at and what you're not perfect at. And we don't have to be perfect at everything. This isn't a quiz. This is homework. This is just for practice. It's good for us to look. We'll look back on this sheet and we'll say, remember when you made a mistake with kaf and kaf? Like a few weeks from now, you'll think it was silly. She was having none of it. She was on the floor, full-scale meltdown mode. And I said to her, Penina, I would like to continue doing your homework with you, but we cannot do homework like this. I'm going to get up and walk away. And when you're ready to do homework with me, when you're calm, you come find me. I'll be sitting at the computer. You come find me. We can continue doing homework. I got up and walked away. It made the temper tantrum 1,000 times worse. She was screaming and crying and kicking at whatever was walking by. And finally, she comes into the computer room, and she says, I'm just going to erase your circle, and I'm going to make my own mark. And I ignore. And I come back into the room a few minutes later, and she's erased my circle around her cuff, and she's erased my circle at the bottom which said my child has read the sheet according to the best of his or her ability, and she has circled my child read the sheet with no mistakes. And I had already signed the page. I lost it. I mean, like, you think like, oh, Ms. Horowitz never gets mad at her kids? I lost it, okay? I didn't lose it in a scary way. I lost it in like, is Rochelle in the room? Where's Rochelle? Not here? I lost it in quiet, scary. This was Rochelle Mycor's mother's advice to me once when I was venting about my kid. She said, the biggest thing is quiet, scary voice. Like, don't be crazy, angry mother, be quiet, scary. So I went into quiet, scary mother voice. Like, you lowered the voice. Like, then she knows it's serious, right? Mommy signed this paper, and what you just did is a lie. You can't lie to your Rebbe. You didn't read the sheet with no mistakes. You read the sheet with a mistake, and that's okay. So she gets quiet. So she looks at me for a minute, and she takes the pencil, and she says, okay, Mommy, I'll erase it. And she starts erasing her circle that she made falsely around the no mistakes, and she tries to recircle exactly in the same line that I did. My child read the sheet according to the best of her ability, and the circle around the cuff. Okay? So my husband laughs at me for this, but I decided, let me take this opportunity to say to her the following, and it's the same thing I want to say to you. And I said it to her about her homework, and I think the initial will be clear, but I will make it clear as well after. I said to her, honey, sometimes you just can't erase something completely. Now you're going to give your Rebbe the sheet, and he's going to see that there was a circle and an erase, and a circle and an erase, and a circle and an erase, and he's going to wonder, what happened? Did someone do something they shouldn't have done? Because sometimes when we do something, we can't fully erase the marks, the impact that it makes. So she was like extremely scared by this. My husband afterwards was like, she's 6, what were you thinking? Like giving her this like scary lecture about not being able to erase. But I really think that there are 2 things that to me really stood out as a powerful slichos teshuva message. Number 1, and this is what I tried to say to her, you have to be careful the first time, right? When you're doing your work, and I say this to her a lot, she loves to circle. If her P isn't perfect and her N isn't perfectly round, she's erasing. And you have to be careful the first time. Again, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect, that's okay. But you have to try to be careful the first time, because honestly, as much as you try to erase, there's always going to be that faint mark. You're always going to be able to see the original action. That's number 1, right? And the same is true with us and our behavior. Just like you can't always erase that pencil mark from on the paper, when we treat someone in a way that's not kind, or that isn't exactly the way we would hope to be treated ourselves, right? So we do it. Sometimes we're careless with our words. Sometimes we're careless with our treatment of another human being. And then what we're left with is trying to erase, trying to take back what we said, but we never can. Never fully, right? You can make it fainter over time. Maybe it will fade, but you can never fully erase the actions that we've done. So number 1, you have to be careful the first time. Number 2, and this is something that I think we all need to hear, myself included, teshuva's hard. I watched her sit there for 10 minutes with this stupid eraser on the back of the pencil, scrubbing, or whatever the word is, on the paper, trying to get that last, little faint gray line, and it didn't come out. It's hard. It's hard. Yesterday, we were driving to a birthday party, and this is a birthday party of a girl she doesn't really like. And I kind of forced her to go because it's a new girl in the class, and she's a little unkind to her behind her back. I hope she's kind to her in front of her face, but she's a little unkind to her behind her back. She's weird, she's this, she's that. And so she went to the birthday party. And in the car on the way to the birthday party with other kids in the car, she started saying to me something about, what are we going to get this girl for her birthday? And my daughter was being very mean. She was saying, we should get her a diaper, she's a baby, and we should get her, and whatever's mean for a 6-year-old. It's not so mean sounding to us, but it's mean when you're 6, okay? You don't want to be called a baby who wears a diaper. So, I guess. So, I said to her finally in the back of the car, whatever you say about her now, you're going to have to ask her to forgive you for it after. And that's going to be really embarrassing, because first you're going to have to tell her you said it. Now, to you and me, we've heard that a million times before. You have to ask forgiveness, right? I'm going to get, probably a dozen phone calls before Yontif, Mrs.Horowitz, I hope you're most on me, if anything. The usual, do you forgive me? Yes, yes, yes. But when you're just hearing that for the first time, then sometimes we have to put ourselves back into that position where it's we have to look at it from a new perspective, whoa, we never thought about it before. It's really embarrassing and hard to really do teshuva. So Baruch Hashem, we have a God who actually erases the sins we do, bein adam l'makom. That's amazing. Go do an experiment before class starts. Write with a pencil and try to erase it. It's amazing that God can actually erase the impact of our actions, bein adam l'makom. But that's not true, bein adam l'chavero. Once it's out there, it's out there. You want to take it back. You hurt someone in the past, and you've asked them for forgiveness, and you've made it up to them, and you've invited them over, and you've gone out of your way, and you've made them cookies, and whatever you want to do, but that original action is still there. It's hard. And I know we stand in slichos, we stand in shul, right? This was a long davening. It was long for everybody. No one in the room was like, wow, that was fast. It was a long day, right? But shuva's hard. You stand up in shul, I read something interesting. Someone was writing an article, and they were talking about their first Rosh Hashanah. They didn't grow up in a religious family, and they were talking about their first Rosh Hashanah. And he said, we'll be done in a sec. He said he went to shul that first Rosh Hashanah, and the rabbi told him, please rise. And he thought, I guess if I could stand for 10 minutes, I could stand for half an hour, So he started standing. How long could it be? He's like, I'm just going to stand the whole day. If that's what God wants me to stand, I'll stand the whole day. And so he said, how long could it be? And he stood up, and he kept waiting, is it going to be 5 minutes? Is it going to be 10 minutes? And it was 2.5 hours. He stood. And he writes in the article, I was in so much pain by the end of those 2.5 hours, but I knew even then, as a 14-year-old boy, not from, just in shul for my first Rosh Hashanah, I knew even then, no pain, no gain. And so I guess the message, which is the same message I wanted to share with my own daughter, the message is, we need to be more careful the first time, but once we have already not been careful, which inevitably happens to the best of us, we also have to recognize that the process of teshuva is very difficult. And so we can't be repelled or turned off or give up by the long slichos or the embarrassment of having to, go to someone and say, I'm so sorry I said this, or I apologize for doing that, or remember when I said this. Right? That's part of the pain, but no pain, no gain. If we really want to have a meaningful Rosh Hashanah and Aseret Simei Teshuva experience, I think we need to kind of keep that in mind, that what we put out there in the world is impossible to take back, and therefore we're going to struggle, and we have to struggle, and we're going to sit there with our erasers, and we're going to take those 10 minutes to try as best as we can, and it's difficult, but we're going to try to do it anyway, because that's really our task for the next 10 days. Okay, guys, first period, I think.